Now that we've read To Kill a Mockingbird and we've gone through everything that we need, now we're going to start analyzing. So again, this book we kind of just read through, and now we're going to look back. And we're going to look back at it with literary criticism. Now, when I say literary criticism, I do not want you to be frightened by that term. I promise you it's not too complicated. It does require you to do some good kind of thinking and analysis, but once you get a sense of what you're looking for, you should be good to go. So to begin with, literary criticism is basically when you analyze a text considering its form, which is basically the way it's written. So again, when we think about close reading, we look at the way it's written, not the literal meaning, and its impact. So what connection it has with culture. Because a big thing about literature is that culture affects books and books affect culture. So we have this kind of back and forth. It's used by readers to analyze. Literary criticism is not actually criticizing a work. It's not judging a work. It's analyzing. And it's not used by authors to write. So this is where English teachers get in trouble, where they're like, oh, this person didn't write this book like with this intention. And we know. But just because the person who wrote Wonder Woman might not have thought initially about the impact of the power in giving a woman that type of superhero power during the time period it was written, doesn't mean we can't look at it that way. Okay? So basically anything can be analyzed with literary criticism, but not everything is written for that purpose. So basically, you want to think about it like reading with glasses. So in general, if I take my glasses off, okay, y'all are all completely blurry. And I know I can't literally see you, but my screen is completely blurry. I can see in general that there's glasses over on the right side of my screen and that there's text on the left, but I don't actually understand the meaning. This is what it's like when you read a book for the first time, just for entertainment and for plot. I get a sense of what's happening. I can tell you what's on the screen, but I don't understand the meaning that I am trying to impart. I know that there's glasses, I know that there's text, but without putting these back on, I don't know what the glasses are supposed to represent. Okay? So if I put on my normal glasses, which are just clear lenses, this is like close reading. This is close reading. So now I have the ability to say, okay, these are all different types of sunglasses. So there's sport, there's shield, there's round, they're all different colors. And over here, I can see, okay, every text can be read in a lot of different ways. So I understand the meaning now. That's close reading. You read it once, you get the general gist, you put your glasses back on when you close read, and you understand the meaning. Literary criticism takes that a step farther. So when I read with these glasses, or when I see with these glasses, it looks very different than if I put on these biker goggles, okay? The text is going to look very different. It's going to look very different. It doesn't mean it's wrong, but it means it's different. So this is where every literary critical theory that I go over is just going to be a different way to look at the text. The text is not going to change. Your perspective is. Okay, so the text is not going to change, your perspective is. So again, we're looking at this more closely, but we're looking at it with different lenses, with different ideas. So there's a bunch of different types of critical theory. Now, I'm only going to focus on these three that are highlighted: biographical, historical cultural, and Marxist. I'm going to focus on these three. All of the rest of these are still really important, and I'm still keeping them in this PowerPoint because eventually I hope to be able to go back and look at it again. But I don't want to overwhelm you. So biographical is kind of one of the simplest ones. So we're going to start with that. If we think about biographies, where can I move myself? There's where I'm going to move myself. If we think about biographies, a biography is a book written about a person's life, right? It's the story of their life. So when we think about biographical criticism, we are thinking about how the text is influenced by the author's life. So we can look at what an author experienced in their real life and connect it to what they wrote about. So for example, I talk about over here, Jack London is an author. You don't have to worry about who he is, but he's an author who grew up in the city, but often visited the Alaskan frontier. That's just something he did. So when we look at his writing, he wrote a short story called To Build a Fire that's all about the power and impact of the Alaskan wilderness. So it's about this kind of oppressive nature that ends up killing a man from the city that thinks he has control over nature, even though he doesn't. So if I think about a biographical criticism, I can argue that Jack London's life directly impacted what he wrote. So his life experience visiting the Alaskan frontier from the city led him to write this book about visiting the Alaskan frontier. That is a biographical criticism. That's all we're doing. We're looking at the author's life and connecting it to what is on the page. So if we think about this with To Kill a Mockingbird, I've talked about this a lot, where Harper Lee grew up in the 30s, and she grew up in a hometown in Alabama, and she saw this really impactful trial in American history of a Black man, and she wrote this book as a response to that. So if I'm looking at To Kill a Mockingbird from a biographical criticism, I am looking at it saying, okay, this is because Harper Lee experienced these specific things. This is why she wrote this plot and this meaning in To Kill a Mockingbird. This is one of the simplest ones you can do. It's basically, what did the author live, and how do we see that in the book we're reading? Okay? The next is historical or cultural. Historical, cultural. So this is where you look at the text in connection with the history and the culture when it was written, not when it's set, when it was written. And so this ties into, I'm always saying culture affects text, text affects culture, and vice versa. This is the literary critical theory that says that. So again, I've talked about this all the time, but you're basically looking at, okay, when this was written, this was the view of the culture, and here's how we see that influence. So for example, Sleeping Beauty, it was created in the 1950s. This movie was filmed and animated in the 1950s. So we can think about, okay, the story of Sleeping Beauty is this beautiful woman who is secretly a princess, is attacked, falls asleep, and true love's kiss, that determination, is what saves her. So we can think about, okay, what does she represent as the ideal of a woman in 1950s America? Because there are gender roles here. So what is the ideal of a woman in the 1950s? And also we have this kind of idea of Prince Philip having the sword of truth. So how does that represent the cultural perspective when we say, hey, you know, we have this reflection of what people think is a good thing in the 1950s. So I've talked about this a lot with To Kill a Mockingbird. I just haven't called it historical critical theory. P.S. I teach these a lot without just telling you what you're doing. Remember, I talked about how this book was written in the 1960s. And during the 1960s, we had the civil rights movement. We had all of this push for equality and push for a fight against racism. And so that influence directly influenced To Kill a Mockingbird, where the theme and the moral of this book is that you have to be aware of your own prejudices to not be racist. That's what this book is about. So the culture of 1960s America, when To Kill a Mockingbird was written, directly influenced this idea of the book. So that's historical cultural. Biographical, what did Harper Lee directly experience that led her to write this book? Historical, how did the culture and the cultural view, not just the author, the culture, affect the writing of this book? The last one is the most complicated, and I want you to stick with me, okay? Marxist criticism focuses on the work of Karl Marx, who is a political philosopher. Now, some of you may know about Marx. Marx is a well-known socialist communist. just because you use Marxist theory does not mean you are a socialist or a communist, okay? What we take is the basic understanding of what Marx was focusing on and apply it to text. And what Marx focused on in his writing was power. Who has it? Why do they have it? Who is kept from the power? Okay? So we look at culture, race, and class. So the biggest example is if you look at a book and you okay, are the rich people always good or are the rich people always bad? Are the poor always good or are the poor always bad? Who has the power in this situation? Who doesn't? Who gave the power to the people who have the power in the situation? So if biographical is author, historical is kind of the culture, Marxist is power. Marxist is power. Now, basically, the main focus is that it focuses on minority and who is the dominant culture. So like the minorities in our country are very different from what the minorities might be in other countries. There's a cultural buildup. And it just focuses on that power. The biggest thing with Marxist theory is that Marx believed that literature is essentially political. So every single thing that you read is political. It either supports the status quo, which basically means it supports what the culture is doing at the time, or it refutes it and says that it should be changed. So all of this power, who has the power, who doesn't. So if you think about the power in To Kill a Mockingbird, there is a lot of economic power where, Bob Ewell doesn't really have a lot of power in the town because he's so poor and he's seen as white trash by the other people in the town. So he's so poor, he doesn't have a lot of power over other people, but his race gives him power in the court case against Tom Robinson. Tom Robinson loses all of that power because of his ethnicity. So this book is challenging the power structure of 1960s America, where it's highlighting all of these terrible things that happen when only white people have the power in the city. Okay? That is a Marxist critical theory. Now, the reason this matters, okay, is because every piece of text has some type of agenda. Every single thing has an agenda. And I've talked about this briefly, where even if we think about, politics and we think about the news, no matter who is in power, they are going to want to give you information that makes you support them. That's just the nature of politics. That's the nature of humans. We want to tell other people facts that are going to make you like us. That's just what it is. So my job as an English teacher is to get you to be able to apply these different perspectives and say, okay, yes, this book is telling me one thing, but why? What am I learning from this book? What influence was there on this book? And how is it trying to influence me? Because the goal is that you as an individual, once you move past the school realm, you will be able to look at a book or a news article or whatever it is you're reading, even Facebook posts. Facebook posts and tweets are so important to be able to analyze so that you can look at it and say, okay, what is influencing this and how is it trying to influence me?